I mean, we're going to now. Like, I feel like it's happened.
It's
like,
happening.
I think this is just how it is. Put it
It's
in the
going to
wiki.
keep going until Kai remembers.
Yeah, we're going to continue just rambling.
Oh, we are totally
It's
recording.
recorded. It's out of context recording right now.
Well, we are live. If Ryan would like to take us away.
We've totally been live. Please, by all means.
It's true. I think you and I should just keep talking because they don't even know who we are.
No,
Whoa, okay,
right.
whoa,
Two
okay,
sexy
you're
strangers in this
already
conversation.
messing things up.
Okay.
No.
You're welcome.
All right.
It's just
All right.
innovation, improv.
Hey, I
All
was
right,
invited here.
5, 4,
We're LARPing.
3, 2, and we are live. Welcome to Life Action Roleplay with
Cynthia Marie.
And Kyan Oman. I
And
don't know why.
Ryan.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh,
Now who's messing things up?
Chaos.
Look at that. You're welcome.
Chaos.
You're
Yes.
welcome.
chaos.
People of the interwebs, you're
And-
welcome.
And Ryan Omega. And we have a couple of special guests here today. Introduce yourselves, please.
Oh, me for I'm gonna fuse with you. My name is PJ Megaw. I introduced myself, and I am in the hot new show on Twitch from Maze Arcana called Arcana High. I play Kaelrin Camblade, the half-elf bard, Silver Tongue.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I'm the best girlfriend in all of Waterdeep, and that's me. Yeah.
Your best girlfriend is you?
No, I mean maybe.
His best girlfriend is his muscles.
Look, I'm a lonely half elf. All right, now moving on.
B. Dave Walters. I also am on a couple shows on Maze Arcana on Inkwell Society. My show just launched this week, the Theogony of Kairos, which is a level 20 adventure that I'm DMing. Very proud of that. On a bunch of stuff on Geek and Sundry, and I like to say words.
Words are good.
Mm-hmm. Words are good.
All right.
Good.
They're not bad.
Good.
Drinks. What drinks are we drinking today? It's pretty obvious.
So much water. It is hot out here, you guys. It's deathly.
I'm having a wonderful vintage 1972 sparkling Crystal Alps hydrogen dioxide.
Hydrogen dioxide, yeah.
It was,
And now it's gonna have spit in it.
That's an oyster. Damn you!
You like it bitter, though. That's fine.
I
You
do.
like it hoppy.
I like my water. I like my beer, full of bitter hops and floaty things.
Yeah. Just to give you all like a little bit of context,
Goes
you know,
down rough.
when you cook, now it's a party. Yeah. when you cook with a wok, and you know how there's that red dot in the middle of the wok, so you know that's the hottest part. Mm-hmm. That's the place where we're filming right now. That's Van Nuys, California.
Yeah.
Is the red dot in the center of the wok.
Very, very true. I like to call it Satan's anus because it's very hot and kind of humid.
Yeah.
And you're right in the middle of all the dirt.
So
Yeah,
Swampy.
they do
swampy and dirty.
refer to the valley as the armpit of Southern California.
They're not wrong. I lived here for 3 years.
They're not wrong.
It's pretty armpit. Yeah.
I live here now. It's not wrong. It's not wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
So shout outs. Who do we have
Shout-outs.
shout out for?
Yeah, shout outs. Does anybody have any shout outs?
I do. I
right.
have shout outs to my Siren sisters because we have gone through so much stuff from Stream of Many Eyes to our, I think it's considered our mid-season finale.
That was
Yeah, I'm gonna
that was
go with
finale
that.
finale. You'll be
No.
back, you might be back for another season because you've done 12 episodes. That's the season.
Yeah,
We're coming
13.
back August 7th.
Woo!
Whoa, all right, wow.
So we're, I guess, calling it a mid-season. I
It'll
don't
be
know.
season 3. Season 3
It'll
will
be
start
season 3.
August.
I hope
whatever.
I level up. Anywho, my Siren sisters, I love y'all. Boom.
You almost likely level up because that's what happens.
To some people.
Takes about 12 episodes to level up. Got it.
Just-
Yep.
just in some games, yes.
Yeah, or our specifically game.
Right, that's
Yeah.
true. We were on a game that's not how it goes at all, actually, you know?
Yeah.
It's funny, in her I messaged her after this that her Thunderwave tantrum would have killed us all, by the way. Like, if her one character just kind of, like,
Yeah.
threw a fit.
Yeah.
I was like, you wiped out our entire party.
Oh, she would have killed
That would've
most
been
of
a-
her own teammates.
A typical TPK.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Yep.
I was about to say, like, if you want to know why that became a thing, it's because that played off on Arcana High, which started this week. Thunder Wave. So it was
Although
my...
we say this week, and our viewers are probably not going to be hearing this episode until a week or two from now. So
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
It's
which
all
is
about
a valid
context.
point. Yeah.
Right.
But it was my first time GMing, my first time...
No,
not DMing.
DMing.
Thank you. I get to
DMing.
use Dungeon Master because
You-
it's for Dungeons and
You
Dragons.
could say
Officially.
HMA.
I mean, you are HMing.
Headmaster.
Headmaster.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm the headmaster
Yeah.
of Arcana High with my own game mechanics and my own game, but it's our game because it is awesome. And my shout out is for all of my players and all the people in the community that created Arcana High. Everyone from Rudy and Satine to Tyler, who took those fabulous photos at Saved by the Max, to B-Dave, who helped talk with me about some strategies about marketing this. Of course, all of my players who are there on screen and at home game. So thank you so much.
So my shout out, and by the way, all of the hard work that you put in and everything like that, and especially the recognition and support that everyone's showing you, it was all very, very well earned by you.
Absolutely.
I cannot overstate the fact that one of my dear friends absolutely killed it with the first time he's ever tried doing something like this, like on feed, and I feel like I have seen far greater people that we know in the communities do far worse on their first time. So I think you're already off to a great start.
Thank you.
Definitely.
So my shout out is going to be a little on the smaller side. It's a shout out to my friend Gabby, who has been interested in LARP, and I really appreciate it when a friend, anyone who is new to LARP, reaches out and is kind of like, I want to try this, I want to know more about this. And so I had two close friends decide to hit up the LARP that happened over last weekend with me, and one of them was Gabby, and she had a total blast, and the other one was my buddy Will, and he and I haven't really had as much time together as we might have in the past, but it was a really nice kind of like reconnection point where he and I hadn't had the time for each other, and because of work and things like that, we hadn't been able to really engage. And initially he was kind of skeptical of LARP, but over the course of time, people like myself, a friend of ours called Nobo, and some of our other friends like Eric and Nicholas and so forth, like all of these friends of ours kind of slowly ground down with just rampant nerdery to a point where some of my other friends went, okay, fine, like, forget it, or not forget it, like, okay, fine, I'm just gonna try this and see how it goes. And to my impression, both of those people had an absolute blast, and it always makes me happy when someone gets to, experience a lot for the first time and they have a wild time.
I just realized that actually was Will. I was certain that it was. I'm like, are you? I'm like, here?
Which one was Will playing? I didn't mean to cut
Will was playing he has kind of a conquistador kind of mustache and goatee. He had like a leather doublet that had a lot of kind of like perforations in it. He ran around with a cleaver with like a kraken kind of etched onto it, and his character could not remember his own name.
Do you two have any shout-outs?
Yeah.
Oh, man. You want to go first?
No, I'm going after you.
Oh, of course. Okay.
Perfect deflection there.
Yep. Let that be a lesson. Being a gentleman, always the safe route if you're actually being a gentleman. Okay, so in that case, I'm going to echo, I guess, everyone else at the table. We just this week shot our first episode of Arcana High, one that I hope will be one of many, and I want to give a humongous shout out to not only Rudy and Satine for giving Ryan the chance to shine like he deserves, but for giving all us little dice jockeys a chance to get out there and do our thing. Big shout out to Kaylee, and of course the two amazing people at this table, Sin and Kai, for sharing that moment, being a nerd and an actor and a grade A ham and spaz, having an opportunity to combine all these things passionately, is truly one of the greatest gifts I could ask for. So big shout out to everyone involved in that process, and here's to doing it more.
Hey.
I've told all of them, but I don't think I've told you. So the first time we met was at that LARP when you were playing a guy from New Zealand.
Yeah, New Zealand, Nico Wilson, yeah.
And we got to the end of it, and you started talking normally, and I was like, wait, what now? Like all the other things, I'm like, all that just read completely, but I'm like, wait, that guy's not really from New Zealand? Oh,
I remember I introduced myself as Nico Wilson, and I said, yeah, I'm doing a New Zealand accent, and if it gets a little weird, let me know, I'll stop doing it. And at the end of the night, I started getting really hammered. And I decided to drop character because the game was done. And I said, all right, everyone, so that was a great time. And no, I'm thank you for the compliment. I really
Yeah.
I worked so hard on that bloody accent. You have no
Yes,
idea.
you-
Well, I mean, anybody listening actually from there might be like throwing up in their mouth right now, but it worked
Oh.
on me though.
Yeah.
It worked on me. That's all I'm telling you.
That's
Like,
the best thing about being an American accent guy. Like,
Yeah.
the real people, like, no, it's garbage. But Americans are like, it sounds good.
Well, it's like I do an accent for my character Hermatio on Inkwell Society, and whenever people give me a hard time, I'm like, it's an Ondarian accent. So if you know any elves from Ondare, ask them what it's supposed to sound like. Otherwise, get out of my face. Yeah.
Yo, I love that. I have to make up accents in places that don't exist because that's the safest.
Just go on in on it. Yeah,
Yes.
you're like, well, now we know what it is.
That was
Yeah.
actually the advice that Taliesin gave me for Jerusalem. He was like, "You're from a fantasy place. No one can judge you."
Yep. Just go.
Oh, yeah.
Do what you're gonna do. Yeah.
In Twin Mask, my duelist character, obviously my accent is not fake. I don't know if this is a surprise.
You're
for you
from
guys.
Ohio. Well, I've been telling everybody you're from Ohio, and they don't believe me. That
Yeah,
that's like
I
just
wonder
a,
why.
A master of accents.
wonder
It's a
why.
very regional Ohio accent. It's running that one farm.
Just one
Very convincing,
specific
yes.
area. It's
Yeah.
like one specific outhouse. So a bunch of my friends are like, we're all sitting in a tent and they're giving me crap for my accent, and they're like, yeah, I don't know why Corvus speaks differently to the rest of us, and I just cut them off. I'm like, actually, guys, I'm speaking completely normal. It's all of you who seem to have changed your accents. I have a traditional Wayrestian accent, and we were rolling for about 5 minutes in a tent. It was like,
No.
oh no, some monster is going to hear us and come and kill us. This is just how it's going to
In a
go.
horrible accent.
That is a valid fear in Twin Mask.
It
Yeah.
can be.
Let me lay my shout out.
Yes.
Two major ones. Shout out to my cast. Again, as of this week, as of this recording, we just did our first episode of the Theogony of Kairos.
Yay.
It's a level 20 game, which is insane. No one has done, so they came along with me on this crazy adventure. So thank you, either to glory or destruction. Maybe both.
Yes.
Yeah, both is good. And to Ivan Van Norman for the Stream of Many Eyes LARP, and Greg Tito for letting us do it at all. So that was, I guess I got to do a lot of experimental D&D in the last month, in the month of June. So, yeah, that's it for me.
So, for those unaware, both of those feeds, the Arcana High and what was the name of yours again,
It's the
Dave?
Theogony of Kairos.
What is a Theogony?
It is a genealogy of gods.
Oh,
That is what it means. It's the family,
So
it's the
it's-
family tree of deities. It's a
All right.
Theogony, yep.
so it's not quite a pantheon. It's more focused than a pantheon.
It is a group of commoners are going to be chosen to receive these powers to do what they will. So they're basically going to be superpowered peasants.
Uh-oh.
Oh boy.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yes.
So-
So they are not like grizzled, hard-fought adventurers by any stretch. They're farmers, merchants, and pickpockets that suddenly
Great.
are going to have access to Wish and Meteor Storm. And I'm sure there will be no negative repercussions from
Yeah,
that
I'm sure
whatsoever.
that'll just go down perfectly fine.
Completely smooth. It's going to be a short series.
I had the honor of talking to Ash about some stuff.
We talked about that, and I greenlit all of it. The only thing I did, I
Yay!
compressed some of the dates to like
That's
keep it
fair.
more amorphous. But besides that, I'm like 100%.
Both of those are available on Twitch/Maze Arcana, and they will be up for I think 2 months. So if you're listening to this, you probably have about 7 weeks or so, maybe 6 weeks to catch it before it pops off of Twitch. So if you get the chance, catch the first episodes on those, because both of them are quite fun, and I don't think you will be disappointed. Recently, because I was hanging out at E3 at one of the after parties, and I was talking to a couple of game designers, and because you're around a whole bunch of game designers, the natural thing is they're going to ask, so what do you do, or what are you working on? And then I tell them, well, I'm working on running a LARP. And they got really excited about that. Way more excited than I expected them to. Because first they were like, okay, I know sort of what that is, but I've never met anyone who runs one. Tell me more. And they started asking questions about the rules and how the system actually works and how honor systems are actually, even effective. And I explained kind of the idea of the community self-policing itself. Players have that kind of downtime or NPC shift where they're helping everyone run the game by being a little bit of time as villains or the background characters to let everyone else have their limelight for a little while as well. And they were kind of mystified at first and then enthralled with kind of the topic of this. And a lot of what they started asking, as I said, was the rules, and it kind of, over time, I stayed up until about 4 a.m. in the morning talking with these guys. And over time, it very quickly slided from rules to kind of the theory and the practices of what makes a LARP and kind of the psychologies behind it, as well as the practicalities of, like, they were both mystified and terrified of the idea of, like, wait, you let your players practically do anything? Like, you don't railroad them into this main storyline that is going to happen? You know, you don't force them if they start turning away. You have to grab them by the head and turn them back and make sure that they don't go too far off the reservation or whatever. You know, you have to keep them on track. And it's like, well, actually, we don't. When you're running a LARP, you really have so much freedom that, and not only freedom, but the creativity to kind of make shit up on the fly. Mm-hmm. If you know your world enough, and this is true for dungeon masters as well, if you know your world good enough, then when the players throw a monkey wrench in your perfectly laid out plan that you've been spending ages for them to do, then that, to me, that's kind of half the fun.
If you're good at it, yeah.
Yes, if you're good at it. And I think it takes a little bit of practice to get to that point, or a little bit of insanity to actually look forward to seeing people ruin the thing, your hard work, and then make something else out of the rubble.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like you said, I think you kind of touched on this. It's kind of that difference between being a video game designer and being a dungeon master, if you will. You know, being a video game designer, you're working with a very raw, very strict science, numbers and coding and things. And when you're deving it and you're testing it, you have to constantly make sure that you know, the market's gonna respond well, that the audience is gonna kind of be able to pick it apart, and you're teaching them to play the game as they play it. You know, all these things like Mega Man X, God of War, the new one recently, and a bunch of old Nintendo games are really good at teaching you to play the game as you play it instead of like throwing you into a tutorial. With D&D and LARP, there is no hard mechanics, there is no math, there's no deving. It's I mean, okay, maybe there's hot fixers.
There's math. There's
definitely mechanics.
New phrases. There's no coding. There's no systematic structuring in a number computer sense. You have the
no algorithms.
There's no algorithm. Exactly. Thank you.
That's a good
That's the thing I'm looking for here. There's more freedom and freedom to be kind of chaotically creative and find the order in that instead of forcing the order on the players in a way that doesn't feel like order, which is kind of the trick that devs have to kind of go through. You know, that science. So I think, I mean, obviously it's very fascinating to someone who's so used to that order, and then going, but how does the chaos work? And then you made a good point. If you go with the chaos and you embrace the creativity of the chaos, it goes very well.
It does.
Very well indeed.
I think there's a lot of different things that are going on that make video games in LARP and role playing in general. In this particular instance, I'm kind of overlapping the two because for the point I'm making, it's kind of similar. In that you take something like a major MMO, which I've played way too many hours of. A lot of that is the social interaction is a component, but like the achievement and the task-based stuff is a component. The fact that you can just kind of get lost for a couple of hours and come back out, largely by yourself, even though you're interacting with people online, you don't have to necessarily gather around a table. Whereas you take something like tabletop gaming, like you said, there's no servers, there's no technological infrastructure, there's just imagination.
Exactly.
There's the people you're sitting around the table with, which we kind of have an understanding that we like each other and wish each other well. You know?
Not always. Sometimes there's not one player.
Yeah, but then you just blast that dude at the table and you're done with it, you know? The thing that would scare a game developer about letting the inmates run the asylum so much is the trolling community and the ganking community and like all of that kind of stuff.
Gamers
that preys on anonymity. like, you're not gonna do that if we're at the table. Like, look me in the eye and say what you just wrote. You know, you can't do it. So, I think even if it were possible to have every single person that we're doing a 40-person raid be in the same room, you would find it be like infinitely more civil than when you're just like yelling over vent. You know?
Yeah, that is true. That technological dissonance does create a lot of lack of responsibility for the social structure. But you know, you still have in D&D and LARP, you still have those trolls. You still have the 5 gamer archetypes. You know, I've definitely seen players try to gank or murk other actual players. They've been a serious problem, you know, and it's just like being a good gamer anywhere. As much as you need to create a game for you, you have to let others create their game instead of stopping that. And they exist in both worlds. I've seen games where DMs said, you know what, he wants to do this, and I'm not going to tell this guy no, because that's his game, so instead, I'm going to give you the opportunity to defend yourself. Which, on some levels, fair, and on some levels, it's not fair. Like, I shouldn't have to, like, come to a game and fight my own player, my own teammate, but maybe sometimes that's what they want. It's very conflicting.
I gotta say, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
One of the best experiences I ever had was in an old West End Star Wars game, where I was playing a character who was a secret clone of Anakin Skywalker. So this was before the prequel, so we were able to make a lot of that stuff up.
All right.
I was a spy for the Empire, and the rest of the group found out, and they tried to kill me. And in that game, you had a mechanic where you could essentially tap into the dark side, basically at will, but you might turn and not be able to come back. But you could access it pretty much whenever you wanted. So I was like, okay, plan B, guess we're going full Star Killer here, and I basically killed them all.
Nice.
And that was the end of the campaign, but I kind of enjoyed it, because, yeah, I won't go too far into the story, but I really enjoy, so sometimes, although I think it was because I was the ganky who then became the ganker.
Oh, it always feels better when you're the guy ganking other people.
When you're the guy that wins.
Looks good when you're on top.
But I would have rather the game gone on. They brought their destruction upon themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
yes, back to the
oh no, by all means. So when we started that conversation, it was really interesting, and like the direction that they approached it from, and then kind of as I said, the conversation continued and things started to become a lot more kind of philosophic. And one of the things that was touched upon was talking about how the anonymity. Thank you. Words are hard.
You say it different over there in the classy part of the world.
Yeah. No, I'm just bad at words. So, you have that aspect where if a player thinks that they can get away with it, and no one's going to, if they feel that no one knows who they are, they'll try it. In a LARP or roleplay D&D pen and paper style game, that's a lot more personal, and it takes a lot more to do that kind of aspect. To bring things back around, with this conversation and what I thought about it, is that we were talking about how everyone likes to play pretend when they're children. And I kind of realized while I was talking to them about this idea, like every kid plays pretend, and you've got the kids who play on the jungle gym, and every time that they're playing, there's a narrative. It's like, what are we today? What are we doing today? The floor is lava today. When it used to be goo yesterday, or maybe we can't touch the goalposts tomorrow, kind of thing. So there are two kinds that I'm aware of. There are two main kinds of kids that kind of play during recess, when they're engaging their imaginations or not. And there are the kids that are more focused on the narrative and the storytelling, and then there are the kids who are more focused on, for example, sports, which is more of a goal-orientated environment.
It's really interesting that you picked that up, though, because literally the first thing that I remember as my childhood is in elementary school playing Street Fighter, but not I played video games, but we all played each of the characters, so I was always Chun-Li. And we would all, like, line up just like the video game. You'd have one person in the middle being like, all right, fight! And you're like, I was faster than the boys, so I would jump a lot faster than all of them, and it was a game of tag, but you were playing all the characters, and the kid who was playing Guile, like, fell for me and wrote me this like whole like love letter thing, and I was just like, whoa, weird.
From your very first LARP experience.
My very first LARP experience, and then we jumped into Power Rangers, and I was always a pink Power Ranger, and that had like, so like that's I never even thought of my childhood of being a LARP for the first time. That's weird. That's interesting.
The way I personally perceive it, and some people might argue with me, but the kids' playground aspects of, you know, playing pretend and having a narrative and being a hero and doing that type of stuff, like, it's incredibly cathartic. And at a certain point in everyone's life, I feel that we're kind of almost shamed as children to stop looking for the narrative in the world. However, the kids who are more goal-orientated, who are playing sports and trying to win at games and things like that, are actually encouraged and celebrated as the rest of the world turns into a more, it's revealed to you, almost like pulling back the curtain of the rest of the world is so goal-orientated. And it made me really think about why is it, potentially, that we have stopped.
I have the answer. It's actually a historical thing. So I did a lot of research on generational communication, so I'm going to take it to generations. Back in the day, in the 40s, we were so into creating a product because we had a war to fight, and so everybody was churning out stuff, so everybody became goal-oriented. You would wake up at a certain time, you would get to work at a certain time, you'd produce a product at a certain time. If you didn't make your product, you'd get fired. You have to go to another job and do the same thing. So as generations started progressing, you had the 40s, who were the war machine people, making planes and all of that. In the 50s, you had the generation that was brought up by the folks in the 40s, so they were brought up on a complete time schedule. You had the 60s that somewhat broke it, but again, you had these goal-oriented people of, I'm going to supersede you because I need to be better at the job so that I can get, what we call it, job security. And so now you have a generation, our generation, that's entered the workforce that has this imagination, that did play Power Rangers and Street Fighter and all these other different games, and now I'm seeing corporations change the way they think about how to create something. So, like, legitimately what you just said about, like, challenging the narrative, that has popped up on the corporate website where I work.
Really?
Yes. Because they're trying to appeal to the younger generation, because younger generations now don't look at goal-oriented things, but rather around the box or outside the box thinking. Which is, it's a interesting flip to watch in the corporate world. So to, I guess, go back to your question, why are we the way we are, is because of multiple generations having to build up a product that our generation is essentially breaking now.
Interesting. So, do you guys have anything you want to comment on that? Like, add to that? Because, I mean, Sin did kind of slam dunk that.
I mean, yeah, like, she did the setup and the spike. She had that.
Tail flip!
Well, yes.
Super effective.
Well, this is all yes-anding. Well, a couple things. So, I think of myself first and foremost as a storyteller. And I was just reading a book that was saying about how telling stories is actually 100% fundamental and pivotal to what makes humans humans. Because the reason why we're the dominant species on the planet is we had to be capable of saying, hey, don't eat that, it will make you sick. And we had to be capable of being like, oh, I can extrapolate that sickness is wrong, therefore I'm not going to do that. So the primary method of the transmission of data became sitting around the fire and telling things that basically are interesting so it would stick with you, because we're biologically programmed to like bright things, loud things, and all that. And so that's why it stuck with us.
And this is going to be real brief, and I do apologize for interrupting you here.
Never do that.
You mentioned about the bright things and things like that. The game developers were talking to me about how there's so much gamification in so much, including the corporate world. And, you know, like, making things that kind of hit dopamine aspects. You get a feel-good factor after you do something. You finish work, or you know, break time comes and you get a ding noise, and you're like, this feels good, and so forth. And so gamifying the world in general is happening because so much psychology is being involved that's disseminating what it actually means to be human.
Well, you also have the and I don't want to interrupt your story. You want to say it first? I can take a back seat.
Oh, he was going.
Yeah,
no,
like,
I'll monologue indefinitely. Please tell me.
You were going to say something.
Honestly, it's a real short thing. In our training at work, they literally gamified our freaking training. I won't say which training it is, but
Yeah.
literally, like, I'm clicking on things and it goes, "You found a clue," and I'm like, "The frick? What?"
So I'm going back to Blue's Clues. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, literally.
Blue's Clues?
Literally.
Blues Clues?
Blues Clues.
You can say it. I said that, didn't I?
Yes, you
Well,
did.
because that was on Blue's Clues. Is Who's Clues?
Oh, Blues Clues. Oh, no, I got a letter.
Is it?
Wow. Yeah, I got an email in my gamification training. It was ridiculous. And if I didn't click on the right thing, and oh, by the way, they don't tell you what to click on. So I'm clicking all around the freaking screen trying to, like, hurry up and do my training because I have other work to do. And I finally click on the right thing, and I'm like, oh, who came up with this concept? Why are they trying to appeal to millennials right now? I just need to finish training and go to work. Ah!
Yeah, there's a big trend because marketing, that's my thing. By day, I'm a marketing exec. And chief marketing officer for e-commerce company.
Hey, man. More than I'm doing.
Fancy.
But is it?
But it's...
I pick up couches and put them down.
But it's working for you though, man. So that's it.
Yeah.
And there is a huge push towards gamification, but most of it's done poorly, like you said, where people are like, "We're gonna have a leaderboard, and it's gonna make noise when you do things," and I'm like, there's slightly more to it than that.
Yeah.
It's not just Pong. Well,
it's like
Wait,
all
Pong
those.
is great, though.
Yeah,
Pong is great.
Pong is pretty good. Well, it's like all those mobile games because you have all these games now coming out, and I'm sure Ryan could probably speak to all these games on your phone and different games that you play. They've used the psychology of gamification, really, I kind of like more the psychology of human addiction, and also the neuroscience of human learning to do what they need to do to coerce you to do what they want you to do. So, for example, there's a few iPhone games. I'm not gonna say what they're called because that's dumb, but they have this system in place so that every time you do something, it is addictive. The colors, the sounds, the sights, the flashes, the when you get a new character, it's such a big thing so that you feel the reward of that character, even if it's completely random and you have no say in it. It's still this reward, and like later you get a
Talk about Pokemon Go. I'm pretty sure all of us around the table have played at least once.
Yeah.
Pokemon Go?
Yeah. So like when you're playing Pokemon Go, do you ever feel like you get that addiction of like, oh, there's another Pidgey. I need 300 of these so I can get a better Pidgey.
Well, I kind
make 'em
of
into
approach
candy.
gamification just differently. For me, like, one of the biggest things that I've had to deal with for my entire life is weight. I used to be morbidly obese. Like, I could not do a lot of things. I was made fun of for being very, very big. The only way for me in the past to deal with losing that weight or doing things was gamification. So if I were to play Pokemon Go in the past, because I barely got the chance to go outside, I was dealing with so many things, it's like, okay, if I can catch 5 Pokemon, then that meant that I had to walk all the way around and do some things, and that was my workout of the day. They've now made it too easy, so now that particular impetus is gone, and now it's just catching Pokemon. So my original intent for doing games was to get me to do things because it gets me out of my routines and my patterns. For me, the reason why LARP is so important to me and why I promote it so much is because the number of times I have seen people have changed. So for me, learning to dress better because I couldn't believe that I would be even remotely attractive to people. So I had to play a character that I thought, okay, this character is, for some whatever reason, sexier, richer, more sophisticated than I am, so I have to buy clothes that reflect that. So I went to the thrift stores and kind of looked at fashion magazines and thought, okay, I'm used to wearing just convention shirts because I thought, okay, clothes just cover the body, they're just practical. I have holes in my pants, why do I need to do or
My
care
heart just
more?
broke just like a minute there.
So
Clothes are just practical.
So yeah, they were just practical. So I thought, okay, if I played a vampire that had to be more influential and more like, more like what I would see in movies, what do I do? I'm like, okay. So I had to pretend to go, okay, if I were better than who I was, what would that person look like? So that meant going and researching and doing those things, and then putting those clothes on, and then being willing to be picky, like, okay, that color doesn't look right, okay, that fit doesn't look right. It's like, okay, this works. And then getting the feedback from people that I would see in LARP. Yeah. And then after doing that for a while, all of that stuff carried over into my real life. And then people would say, hey, you have a style. I'm like, really? Like, that's just a LARP character I play. It's like, why don't... Then that praise became real, not just this isolated thing that we do at LARP that I could carry over and, like, eventually learn to dress better because I received a lot of that feedback from this sandbox that we call LARP, and I could use that advantage in real life.
So you'd say I'm sure this is one of many, because we all have our own little list, but your impetus or your reason for gaming, the thing that you like out of gaming and take out of gaming is that personal growth, that change that you got from it, that you entered a world that accepted you and loved you and helped you to grow as a person.
Right, and sometimes they didn't always accept me or love me.
Oh yeah, it's not every time, obviously, yeah.
But I had to figure it out. And once I figured it out, and once I figured out how people responded to certain actions, to certain risks, that's a big thing about gaming. Like, you can take risks, and there are potential rewards. There also are potential failures. Then it's a matter of how do you recover from that failure to keep playing, or are you done?
Yeah, and I think that should also be... The thing that I had to learn to tell myself was that it was okay to walk away from a game. Even as a young kid, I had, I probably still have, ADHD to some degree, and video games were a great way to focus my brain. Even now as I speak, my brain is going back and forth like a boomerang between the things I'm about to say and saying something else instead. But as a kid, a video game, everything was in the moment. And but sometimes it was hard. And when you have ADHD, the biggest thing is that all your feelings are an 11 at that point in time, in that exact moment. If you're angry, you are angry 1,000%. If you are sad, you are sad 1,000%. And then whatever coping mechanism you have to get through that, it takes time. But, when you get mad at a video game, like, I jumped! This game cheats! Like, all those things you shout at the game. You get so focused because, like, I grew up soldier on, You do not quit, you just get your head down, you barrel through it. But sometimes I had to tell myself, no, it's okay to walk away from this game. It's not doing its job, it's not creating a fun environment, it's not creating... I'm not enjoying it. And I had to teach myself to learn to walk away from a game that wasn't giving me what I needed.
Man, where were you when I was playing Destiny?
Probably playing Destiny 1 and sucking at it.
So, the question that I wanted to pose to you guys, because I had to do a couple of smaller ones to kind of lead up to this point, and this went way, way better than I actually planned. So the question is, why do you play? And I feel like some of you are already giving reasons why you play, why you decide to find the narrative in something, and why do you LARP, why do you roleplay, however you want to interpret it, but like... That's my real main question with it.
A damn good question.
You spoke first. You have to go.
Oh, is that the rule?
That's the rule. I just made it up. I just made up this rule. You said it. You gotta go.
You just invented a game in the middle of a game.
Gamified podcasting.
You just metagamed.
I metagamed. Wow. Get on my level? No, don't ever.
No.
Hang on. I'm gonna stall for you. Interrupt me when you're ready. I did want to tell you, we were talking about talking about gamification of things. Like, weightlifting's been gamified for years, chasing PRs.
It has.
My god,
chasing PRs. Yeah, like personal records for those of you that don't love the iron.
That's right. If you're not in the Church of Steel, let me tell you.
It's true. Yep.
I blame a lot of that on CrossFit. Well, no, actually,
powerlifting means, man, no. Look, it wasn't just CrossFit. They tapped into it, but it wasn't just them.
True.
What are your totals? What do you bench?
I also give bodybuilders, too, the exact same thing, because it's like, strength does kind of play, but it's also what's your size, what's your bench, what's your competition. Yep. It's all, gym. I mean, I guess gamification, yes.
Let me stop you right there. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Good. Go right ahead.
I was only stalling.
Watch banging on the table because the podcast will pick it up.
Yes.
It will spike, but...
So why do I play?
Yeah.
I like to escape my own reality. Wow, that's like...
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, we all do it.
Not at all.
Not that I have a bad life. I have like a fantastic life, and like growing up, life was awesome. But I grew up as a dancer and a performer, so I constantly was in rehearsals playing another character. I'd go to Nutcracker. I'm not gonna say what I ever played in Nutcracker, but I always played different characters in school and stuff. So it was it's an escapism, I guess. But more specifically to LARP, I started LARPing because I wanted to hone in my acting skills. As a dancer, I don't speak. I never spoke until I got into college.
But your hips don't lie.
Oh, my hips don't lie.
Oh, you know what? and I've seen you dance. You still act, even though you're not saying anything. It's all expressive.
Fair, but to the point, I've never used my words. So the only time that I ever used my words was in college when I was given an entire monologue to memorize in 2 weeks. And I was like, guys, I'm not an actor. How do I do this? No, you'll figure it out. Shit.
My old teacher, repetition.
I did. I memorized the entire monologue while I was speaking while I was being flipped upside down and running and actually doing full choreography. Like, I have the video if you guys want to ever watch it later.
Wow.
It was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. Anyways, that was probably one of the last times that I ever, like, spoke. So to jump into a LARP and not only not have lines and have to improv, like, I literally had major panic attacks, as most people from One World by Night, Vampire LARP knew or know from previous podcasts. My first game, I was like, I can't talk. Why am I talking to people? Like, I can't, like, I don't do that. So LARP has pulled me out of my own shell, even though I'm an extrovert performer, has allowed me to speak. And now going into live stream again, like, I was freaking out because you can only see me from the, I guess, chest up at a table. So I was even more locked down of, like, I can't use my physicality anymore. Like, at least at LARP, like, I can start dancing or start moving if I started getting uncomfortable. With live stream, there was none of that. Huh? I mean, I just danced it out. Just dance it out.
It's all. This is your home, right here.
Yeah, that's all I get. So again, that was another, like, freak out moment where I was like, how do I act? How do I do this?
I only want to interject to only say, in Arcana High, watching the VOD of you, you are very physical sitting down.
Very animated.
Extremely so.
I know, I'm right next to you, yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're perfect. Everything you did was amazing. Don't ever stop.
Thanks. I appreciate it. But that's only because I got pulled out of my shell in Sirens, you know? It took me a long time, as we've all talked about it. It took me, like, 3 or 4 episodes to, like, finally burst out of my shell, if you will, which is really weird because I've never been, like, a shy person. I guess growing up being an elder person in my age, I've gotten a little shyer. So, bring it back to the question. Escapism and honing in new skills, like learning how to do an accent, is probably the main reason why I LARP and try to, like, it's my own sandbox. I get to try things, and people, like, not judge me for it.
I'm very jealous of all of you who can manage accents. I am not good at it.
We're working on your
I'm
southern
not good at
accent.
it.
You're getting there with the southern accent.
Oh.
I won't out you to do it right now. I'll out you to do it once we stop recording.
I want to hear the southern accent.
So do
but it's
I.
almost there.
I don't think I can do it.
Since I'm from the South, I
haven't
really
been
want to know what you
practicing
sound like.
I told him you just go a little slower.
A little
You just draw it
slower.
out a little more.
Depends what part of the South. If you
I'm
if
with you.
the
I'm not
down
even trying.
The part of the South I think he can do.
Yeah,
I'm Arkansas man. He ain't gonna
We're
do like
talking like
down in
Georgia.
Arkansas. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So let me just.
This was a mistake getting both of us at the same time.
I love it.
Well, let me just say my thing. I think even though.
No, Dave, you're not allowed to.
No,
Well, I
you're
guess we're
really-
done
you're
here.
really
and
not allowed.
we're finished.
Doors that way.
So it's a good time. Thank you all for the opportunity.
Wait, which
Yeah,
way's the
no.
beach, PJ?
Yeah.
All right, so you were
that way.
That way. Oh, jeez.
Haven't had
I'm
a
just
fight.
feeling his bicep right now.
So-
Like,
Make sure you don't edit that out, by the way.
Yeah, leave that in there for all the people to.
That is to
listeners,
stay in.
just so you're aware of what just happened, was PJ flexed. PJ is a very beefy fellow.
You're way too kind.
can you still do that trick?
And-
Yeah.
What?
Okay, hold on.
Wait, there's a trick?
All right, yeah, hold on.
Yeah,
I need
but-
it.
Wait, I
actually
gotta put my
see you.
glasses on. Hold on.
All right. So basically, I've been able to make
we
my
need to
pecs in
boomerang
such a
this?
way that I can grab things with my pecs. So from here,
You've got
Yeah.
cleavage, yeah.
I can now grab his hand.
Right.
And-
you grab the pencil? Yeah.
Yeah, I
Oh.
grab a pencil.
It's not grabbing as much.
Yeah, I'm losing
Oh.
weight.
Because you cut weight.
No, yeah, no,
no, because
that's-
he's cut weight.
You're
in that
a
area.
terrible person. You lie, Ryan. You lie and you
No.
tell him that it squeezes as tight as it ever has.
No, you made
No,
a
it's
good point.
because,
I've
like,
cut
there's
a
not
lot
as
of weight.
much mass because
Yeah.
he's lost, like, you lost, like,
15 pounds of fat.
yeah.
Yeah, give or take. I haven't
Yeah.
measured myself since.
Oh, your boobs went down. I'm sorry.
I went from a B cup to a D cup. However, they got whiter.
Could I just stop you right there?
Yeah.
Somebody answer the question.
Right. Answer the question.
All right. So.
Thank you, Dave.
I think this, even though there's definitely an escapist component, and I could monologue indefinitely about the psychology of storytelling and stuff, because what I really love, I think the simplest thing that most people would comprehend is everybody goes to the movies and we get to live them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
You know? So
much of my dialogue is like cheesy action hero dialogue,
Yep.
and I love
So
it.
far, I'm gonna say I have not lived as a superhero yet, LARPing wise.
challenge accepted. You know? Challenge accepted.
I'm checking out Super LARP in July. You want to join me, Miss Wonder Woman?
Yes.
All right.
Oh, I need to go back because I played the Lois Lane character over there.
Nice. I'm gonna be. I'm just gonna stop beating around the bush and just go as Captain America.
Yes,
If not now, when?
and I will
Never
interview.
soon enough.
And I will interview you.
I'll be so awkward the whole time. I don't know what to do with my hands. So yeah, keep going. I don't want to interrupt your
Your monologue, your epic monologue of
No,
level 20 proportion.
I mean, no, because I could do that. No, really. I think it's getting to live the stories. Everybody reads the novels, watches the movies, watches TV, and an effective story draws you along and makes you feel like you're a part of it. Like, one of the most interesting things I've heard about Doctor Who is John Barrowman said, the show's not about the Doctor, the show's about the companion, because the companion is you. And that's why the show works. And so the exact same reason that you step into that person's shoes to go on board the TARDIS is the same reason we step into being vampires or playing Twin Mast or doing what we did, getting to go to Waterdeep at the Stream of Many Eyes, which was just insane to walk into a place that I've been reading about since I was 13, and then to see Ed Greenwood, who thought of this 52 years ago. Like, what a mind trip it had to be for him to be walking around like, this is a thing, the Yawning Portal's a thing, you've got maps that I drew on the wall, that's real. Yeah, and it's an opportunity to get lost, to forget your troubles, whatever's bothering you, but also to either be a better or even a worse aspect of yourself, to aspire to something greater to yourself or have a cathartic release of being someone awful, which is valid, you know, if everyone else agrees to go in with you, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's why I do it, at least. You know, and it's also a good time with your friends. I will just say this, just as a random aside. The only difference between playing on stream and playing at a table, and for me, is the stream has all the extraneous stuff cut out.
Yep.
Like, all of the talking about Netflix, all of the, like, you know, messing with each other about stuff and telling jokes and eating pizza. It's just, like, down to, like, getting down to it.
Deeper immersion.
Yeah.
Which is something that is really kind of praised in LARPs. Like, you really want to try and stay in character as much as possible, because if you're out of character and you're within earshot of someone who wants to be playing at that moment, you're the dick. Like, you're being the dick. You're taking away from the scene. And if you've got a very real, out-of-character reason, that's fine. But if you're just catching up on, like, the latest comic books or, like, something like that, then it's important that you should realize you are the problem and then step away with the person that you're chatting with. And, like, get well away from everyone else if you want to decompress like that.
I have a great term for that. I call it plot blocking. When you are going out of your way to hinder someone else's game or moment, or if they're doing something and you're not being helpful, but you're still being a problem, you're plot blocking, and it's not cool, bro.
That's the thing now. Put it in the wiki.
I agree.
Hashtag plot blocking.
That's a great term. Now, so for me and my reasons to play, I found they've changed a few times, but more recently, when thinking about the processes of how people kind of react and interact and things, I find the healthiness of LARP, like the ability for LARP to kind of redefine who you are, because you understand that, well, I'm not capable of doing something. Spoiler alert, yes you can. But you don't feel that you're capable of doing something, so you make a character that you feel is capable of doing it. I've made the analogy before about public speaking and things like that. There's also a very, very good 20-minute long speech by Neil Gaiman, who some of you might know as a writer. And he done a really great speech to a graduating class, and it's on YouTube. It's called Make Good Art. And at a certain point in time during that, there's a piece that's one of my favorite bits of it. And some girl asked him, hey, I'm not really sure how to do this thing. and I think it was like doing an audiobook or something like that, and he gave the very serious advice of like, well, I don't really know about that either, but here's a suggestion to you. Maybe you should pretend to be someone who knows what they're doing, and just think about what they would do. Just do what they would do. And it's that kind of ideology of like either having having the confidence to push forward and try something that is out of your bubble, or to make a persona, make a shard of yourself that you believe is actually capable of doing it, because it's not really you. It's this extra layer in front of you, and a lot of people do that without even ever acknowledging that they're making a character or persona for themselves.
Yeah.
They have their public speaking voices and things like that. Or, the aspect of fake it till you make it. Like, as long as it works in your bubble of confidence, however you draw and fuel your ability to do something is fine. And I think that power, I feel that LARP actually is almost like going to the gym for that kind of muscle.
I have to give a shout out to two people, Dr. Janina Scarlett and the people from Clinical Role that are doing a lot of work. Clinical Role?
I would like to know more about that.
They're doing basically the therapeutic benefits of tabletop gaming, which is exactly what you were saying. That if you're afraid or if you feel weak, you're stepping into the skin of someone who is powerful. You're indirectly facing the thing that you fear, which, back to your point, Ryan, is has significant bleed over. Where even if I faced this thing or became this person in a pretend way, I still wore that skin though, and it becomes easier and easier to keep that skin on. Basically,
do you know those people?
I know Dr. Janina Scarlett, yeah, and I Twitter know the people from Clinical Role. Dr. Megan Carroll, I think. Don't quote me on that. I apologize if I said the wrong thing. But Janina Scarlett is at Shadow Quill. I know that for sure.
Very cool.
I've had her on my show.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's a lot of evidence coming out, a lot of therapies coming out using roleplay, like for people on the spectrum of autism and Asperger's, and all the amazing help that is. And you guys even covered in a previous podcast about how it helps people with PTSD and other certain traumas. Kind of that slow and steady immersion therapy. Yeah, so that was really cool.
Yeah, that
That's
was
awesome.
something that we had Rudy Rudenberg talk about, because that was something he was very passionate about, because it's helped him and other veterans deal with a lot of the things that they were going through by being able to roleplay a lot of those things and go really, really hard to those roleplay.
Some of the national events for Dystopia Rising, in fact, have had certain little mods or gathering times specifically for kind of a veteran mod. And it's not the idea of experienced LARPers. It's the idea of experienced military personnel who are all kind of off duty or are retired or so forth, or however their individual stories are, but they all kind of gather together, and then they work together to kind of put forward their own brand of a little bit of story that they'll head off and do as a big group to add to the world. And it's not them as their characters, it's them as NPCs trying to do a bit of change and things like that. And they're very proud and welcoming of it. And so it's not really excluding, because the story that they bring into the world when they do these kinds of things is very palpable and an experience that everyone can experience. But it made me think of that.
Definitely.
One of the things that I always recognize in LARP and the current trend of entertainment right now is that we are starting to go more from the flat screen of I wish I could be part of, I wish I could be that person, to I want to be part of that world as my own avatar, as my own hero.
Yeah.
And we're starting to get into that with LARP, with virtual reality, with all of that technology, which right now they're still trying to find those edges. I've talked to a couple of people in virtual reality companies, and I asked them, "Can you do this?" And they said, "We're not there yet. We're not there yet." And I said, or they said, "We're not there," and I said, "Yet."
Yeah.
And one of the things that I found very, very powerful is knowing that some of our LARPers who have been LARPers for years figured out who their true selves were, and then embraced the courage to become them, to become who who they really are. Like, case in point, some of my friends who I love dearly and would eventually want to come to a podcast one day. Our friend Erin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, she's awesome.
Erin is a badass.
Mm-hmm.
Erin is a badass.
She's a wrecking machine when she goes in the field.
Yeah. Realized her true self partly because of, she's a big fan of Dungeons and Dragons. I didn't really know this until we actually hung out on her birthday.
Oh, man.
But also just going through the changes, going through the hormones, going through all of that, and also having a wonderful partner that supported her through the entire time.
Nice.
Which was beautiful. And for me, being able to know that you can create that sanctuary, or being part of that sanctuary, is almost sacred. Sometimes gameplay is a sacred act.
Well said.
Absolutely, I think so. I mean, history's always shown that we teach in games too. We teach kids how, like back in the tribes, we used to teach them how to hunt and how to be good at throwing the spear and shooting the bow and arrow through games, simple child's games. And then when they become an adult, they've already had a lot of that precursor training, and it is a sacred growth of humanity to play the game and to tell the story and recognize a pattern and grow.
The Gracie brothers, like the legendary jiu-jitsu people.
The Gracie so much.
They said, like, their dad taught all of them, and they were like, we didn't know, we were just wrestling with dad. I guess every once in a while dad's like,
God, can you imagine having as a dad? Oh, where's rough housing? My arm!
You're like,
it doesn't bend that way.
It's rolled in a triangle. Oh, God.
Yeah. Dad's like, that's the point. It's called the key lock. No, Dad, no.
Yeah, but they were like, we didn't even know that's what was happening until like much, much later. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, that thing was a trip.
Yeah, I mean, but you guys haven't given us yours yet of why you play.
Well, you want to go?
I mean, actually, to be honest, to a certain degree, I feel like Ryan and PJ have given us, when we were building up to this question, they were already giving us some of their reasons. That doesn't mean that I don't want to, make them squirm and add more to it.
There is one thing that I will add, though. When I think about Arcana High, which was originally Elminster High, and I was trying to figure out how to run my first Dungeons and Dragons game, before I even started that, what my brain did was, how do I solve all of the problems that I see in other D&D games and not replicate that to create a gaming experience that everyone would love? And so some of the first things I realized were, people like games stop because there isn't a consistent playing schedule. I'm like, that means that I want to make sure that people play every week or once every 2 weeks. Games stop because a person is not buying into the plot because whatever the DM is offering is not interesting. They would rather go with the shepherd boy who is more interesting than the quest giver. So I thought, and sometimes people railroad too hard so that the games stop. Games stop when people end up missing out because of real life and they can't get back into it again. Games stop because the person who is missing holds an essential part of the plot and the rest of the cast or rest of the group can't actually do anything. So in knowing all of these things, I developed Elminster High, a game that was specifically meant for every player who is in there is responsible for running their own plot. The school itself is just a sandbox for which everyone will encounter their resistance, they can encounter goals, they can encounter all these things, but it's up to each of my players to know this is what they want. The head cheerweaver was dethroned by a cheerweaver who wanted it more, and she found out her own way to get that. There is a person who we know that...
a lot of plotting.
Yeah. But that's just it. Like, I rely on my players to provide the plot. And I realize that's pretty much what a LARP storyteller does. They arbitrate like the plot, and they will give them things to do, but what will motivate a player more than any story is a story they have created and owned themselves. So for all of my players in Arcana High, which is important to me, they own their story, they own their plot. I just create the school that you will either realize or or block or change whatever goals they have.
But what I also love about our home game for Arcana High is that you also allow the players to, it's going to be kind of taboo for me to say this, but create our own game mechanics as well. So, like, for example, when Luna and I started texting back and forth and we put you in the chat, like, you were totally for it because we were pushing plot back and forth, but nobody else around the table knew, but we were allowed to use our technology, which I thought was really cool. And the same thing with VG's notebook. The moment you guys started passing back and forth, I was like, hey, what is this? I want to know what's going on. So I thought it was really cool that you allowed us to do what made us feel comfortable in terms of game mechanics instead of being like, no, you must roll a dice, or no, you must roll, like... there was other aspects in the game that... our game is multi-layered. Like, it's not just what's being on the table, which is really cool.
Oh, yeah, and I tend to push my players a little bit. Like, the one time...
A little?
When... Yeah, just a little bit. Just a little bit. Like, when... Joey and you had PJ, because you, when Joe and PJ had to take off the Vecna prep uniforms in order to disguise, I made PJ lie down on the floor in a jacket, and I said, Joey, however long it takes you to actually take the jacket off of PJ, who is lying down because he's unconscious, depending on the time, I will tell you that you gained that many uniforms. Go.
Yeah, so basically in real life we did this kind of like a strip scenario where I'm not a small man by no means, but I'm not like anyway. So I'll give Joey credit. The most graceful fingers I've ever felt on my body.
I think we now know why this adventure took place. People of the interwebs.
Joey and I bonded a lot in many ways that night, and we got drunk later. So the point is, it was really, really exciting, and then we used that, we timed it, and that was the thing there. Also, what is this crab thing I'm holding? If I can derail for a second.
That is a head crab from Half-Life. It's a toy that we have on the table.
Because right now I'm playing Facehugger with it, and this just giant hole in the center, like, kind of
you're not
worries
wrong.
me.
Yeah, it's very hentai.
Oh, very much so.
Wow.
I do want to.
That's entirely creepy. I don't.
I do want to add, I guess, one more thing to my reasons for gaming. How about the ADHD, my brain kind of going a million places at once. Also, being an actor, the greatest thing that I can do is perform to whatever level, whether that's storyteller performance or in character and building a character, and having that chance to bring something to life. Because we live in California. We live in a part of California, and all the actors come here, and spoiler alert, not all of them actually get to act. And I get to do whatever I need to do in this game. I can escape, I can be cathartic, I can just be like, guys, I just want to make people laugh, or I want to hit a thing with a sword. I get to have whatever experience I need to have at that time. Oh, but also more importantly, I think actually Cynthia and I were talking about this just before you come to Twin Mask. You asked me, why do I like Twin Mask so much? And my answer to her was that I like having a role. I like having a place, a job, a position, a purpose. I guess you could say gaming gives me that, but not just that. I like being helpful. I like being a hero. I like having a purpose, doing that job, helping people out, and giving that to people, with no expectation back, and just feeling like I belong. Sometimes is the most potent reason I keep coming back to Twin Mask. Like, if I ran out of things to do and wasn't having fun, I'd still come back because I feel like I matter. I feel like I belong, and I feel like I have a purpose there.
Without it being an obligation, though.
No, of course not.
Absolutely.
Because then it becomes an obligation. It's no longer a purpose. It's a job.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if your game becomes, let me rephrase this, if the game becomes a work, a job, then what are you really doing? Are you gaming, or are you obligated, like Kai said?
When it becomes obligatory and the obligation outweighs the enjoyment. Where it's like, if I didn't have to do this, I wouldn't be here, and then that's when it's like... Ugh.
It's like, there's that DM
I walk away from
thing.
those situations.
Yeah, like the DM drop. You've been having a great time with the story and the characters, and suddenly you start losing interest. And when your storyteller loses interest, that's the worst part.
Yeah.
Because it's like they can do whatever they want, and you don't care. And it's all chaos.
I will say, like, I know there's been several times in game where my character is actually kind of been like, you are a valuable asset to the town, I think you should take it a step further and join this organization, and so forth. Like, there are people who value your character very much, and they're like, here are all the ways that we think you could do even more, kind of thing.
Yeah. You're talking about Gaius?
An interesting experience, I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I thought so. I have a feeling.
I thought you were talking about Gaius anyway.
I mean, no, I was directly talking about that, and I'll make an official announcement. I'll join the guard.
Oh my god!
Publicly, I'm joining the guard now.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Trial basis. I don't want to screw things up, but I'll do it.
You want to screw things up.
Before I forget, we appreciate, like, especially people who have been our longtime listeners, our longtime supporters, especially those who are on our Patreon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're starting to get into some bigger things over here. It's like, I can't even believe that I'm saying that, because, like, we started
a year ago with all of this.
July 5th is when we started this podcast.
No, it was March.
It was, well, okay, we launched.
Yeah.
We launched on July 5th, but we kind of started around April.
That's still really cool, you guys. I
Yeah,
mean, most
for a
people can't do
year.
anything for a year.
Yeah, so we're just really appreciative of all the people who have, supported us, especially our friends at Geeky Tees, our friends at Lost Colonies, and our friends at Twin Mask. So
Yes,
thank
indeed.
you.
Thank
Shout out to
you.
Twin Mask.
Yes. It's time. Social medias. Where can people find people?
So long, farewell.
Auf Wiedersehen, goodbye. Adieu.
Wow,
Alright. Theater nerds.
Professionals.
Yeah, what can we say? My name is
Professionals.
Professionals, that's right.
Professionals, bro.
No, okay, we're not starting the bro thing right now.
Dude.
All right.
Alright, so
Social
anyway, back
medias.
to the point. My name is PJ Megaw. I like to ramble, and you can see that on Facebook. My name is PJ Megaw. Instagram, I believe it's also PJ Megaw, or the Mega W. And on Twitter, at @the_Mega_W. It's my last name.
I'm at B. Dave Walters. I'm at B. Dave Walters on all the things. I'm on Inkwell Society when we come back, Theogony of Kairos, Ask Your Black Geek Friend, We're Alive Frontier, some other things I can't talk about. So yeah, some good stuff coming forward in the near future. Hashtag vague booking.
Vague booking. Alright, so you can catch me on my social medias. Instagram, Cynthia__Marie. That is 2 underscores. Or you can find me on Twitter at SinDancer. I'm actually tweeting now, so find me. You can find me on... yeah, don't laugh at that. Like,
You're welcome, by the way.
No,
You're welcome.
no.
I've been leaning on you. I'm like, it's a thing.
I'm
That's
trying,
what
I'm
this game is
trying,
played
I'm
on Twitter.
trying.
Yes.
On livestream, you can find me on Maze Arcana. Actually, you can find pretty much all of us except for B. Dave. Arcana High.
Yeah.
You said Maze Arcana.
You said Maze Arcana.
Okay, sorry, I meant Arcana High.
Ooh.
I love that. Wow,
We
you
love
guys.
B. Dave.
I'm joining Vecna Prep. Screw you guys.
Bomb
He's
drop.
not
So
wrong.
you can find me and the rest of the gang on Arcana High, twitch.tv/Maze Arcana, or starting August 7th, you can find me Sirens of the Realm, which is twitch.tv/D&D. Whew! Done.
Yay!
Woo.
I do the things like this podcast and Inkwell Society while we're going. And also I have been in the first episode of Arcana High, and that was an absolute treat to be involved in. I'm also working on a LARP that is hopefully going to be happening in the fourth quarter of this year. And that will be exciting. That's going to be Dystopia Rising NorCal. You can find me on the interwebs and things, and the Instagrams, Twitter, and so forth at YoKaiProps. And that's what I have to say.
Although, before we finish, Felix, we are going to talk about the laser death hand that you have. The thing you do when you hold the hand and it lasers, it comes out and you're killing the people.
We have one more social media.
We do.
Alright, and this is Ryan Omega. You could find me on Facebook. You could find me on Instagram under Ryan Omega. You could find me on Twitter under Ryan OMGA. The reason why it's not Ryan Omega is because the original Twitter got hacked by Russians. Rude.
Who?
But I'm getting very active on my Twitter, and I'm enjoying it. I'm actually being able to communicate to a lot of people just within gaming communities, and I'm very active, and I love to talk, and I love to just post photos of and be involved. So you could find me there. That would be great. Otherwise, I am the DM for Arcana High, my own game, or our own game, and you will find me on a lot of the things for Maze Arcana behind the scenes as a producer. And I will also be doing a bunch of other things that are coming up, and I'm so excited to present that to you. All right. So, thank you so much for joining us today. And I never know how to close this out, so...
Bro.
No,
Bro.
guys.
Bro.
Okay, bye.
So until next time,
Rude.
bro.
Bro.
Oh, God.
Bro.